thanks for coming along to Shamrock Park tonight. Really appreciate it. Is it the first time you've been back here in a while?
I've been back a couple of times, but I haven't been back for a while.
You played in the Legends game here, I think, 5 or 6 years ago, the Davy Mills Legends game, I think.
I did, yeah. I think that was one of the first times I'd seen the kind of new stands and stuff. So yeah, that was a while ago.
Very good. Mark, we're just going to talk tonight just about your football career and especially your time at Portadown. Can you talk us through how you started out? Was football your sport when you were growing up? Did you come through any youth teams or anything like that?
Always remember having a ball at my feet, like when I was playing with my mates on the street. And also I lived kind of quite close to a football pitch just behind me. So that was like our garden really. So we were over there every day, after school, hours and hours, and then in the summer just all the time. So no, it was always something I had a wee, interest in and got a buzz from.
Did you play for any, what was the youth teams that you played for on your way up?
St Mary's Youth Club was the first one, I think, about under 10s, under 11s, and then Potter's Boys Club started up. That was a newly formed club. You're going back about maybe 93, 94 when they kicked off, and most of the St Mary's lads moved over there. We had a couple of really good strong teams there, and we won the Craigavon Junior League a few times, and then we moved down to the South Belfast League and done well there. So they were probably my earliest kind of memories of competitive football.
And then you played for Wolves. How did that move come about?
I got selected for the under 15 schoolboys, played in the Victory Shield, and I think the first game was against Wales in Wrexham, and I had a pretty good game. I think I give the left back or the right back a few problems that night, and after that then I was invited for trials with about 4 clubs, so Blackburn, Forest, Wolves, and 1 or 2 other clubs were interested. So I went and trials to all those clubs, and then eventually signed schoolboy forms for Wolves.
And what was that experience like?
Brilliant, getting over to England to see obviously Premier League clubs. I went to Blackburn actually with Peter McCann and Gary Hamilton, and fantastic weekend. They took us to the first team game and all that, and those 2 boys actually signed for Blackburn. But it was brilliant. It was a real experience, just even at that stage for me. Getting on an airplane was a big thing, so to get over there and see those facilities at massive clubs was it was an eye-opener.
And how long were you at Wolves for? Sort of what standard? Were you part of the first team? Was it mainly in the youth setup and into the reserves and under 21s?
I went to I signed when I was about 15. I think I signed a 2-year schoolboy form, so that meant while I was still at school, until I completed my GCSEs, I was going to be travelling back and forward there and playing for their under 16 team. So I'd done that for about 1.5 years, 2 years, going over maybe about once a month, and then meeting up during the holidays and Easter and stuff like that. And the team above that was the youth team. So this would have been natural progression for me to go to the youth team. And Robbie Keane was playing for the youth team at that time, and Keith Andrews was there, and a couple other guys, Lee Naylor, who went on to play for Celtic. So no, good standard of football, but I was with the 16s there for a long time.
And then, am I right in thinking then when you came home from Wolves, then that's when you signed for Glenavon, is that right?
Yeah, what happened was I was supposed to go to, I signed a 2-year contract after the schoolboy forms were completed, to go over there on a YT. And even though I was enjoying being part of it, I always liked coming home. So there was always a wee element of me, this is great, but I can't wait to get home type of thing. So it was a wee bit of a home bird that way. And then when it came to actually finishing my GCSEs, I kind of thought to myself, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if I'm ready to make the jump. So at that point I phoned up and explained the situation, and they were really good in fairness, and they did grant me a release to play Irish League, and they said they would keep an eye on me. So, and that's how I ended up at Glenavon.
And who was the manager that signed you at Glenavon at that stage?
It was actually Billy Hamilton, and he was only there for a short period, maybe just after Nigel Best I think left. So he's only there for a short period, and in fairness to him as well, he didn't really know me at the time, but he done a lot of work behind the scenes and trying to get Wolves to sign the release forms and stuff. And I wasn't really ready for the first team then, but Billy Hamilton.
And how did you find the change from being in that sort of setup at Wolves then to coming home? Was it a massive change, or was it something that suited you better? You know, because you were close to home and you're only, you know, Glenavon was you know, a stone's throw away from where you were.
Yeah, no, it was an easy enough progression for me because a lot of the guys that I played with at underage football for Potters actually were playing for Glenavon youth team at the time under Jackie Delaney. Some really good players. So I was just I was just going with my friends to play with them. And at that time, Glenavon obviously were a pretty big club, so I thought it wouldn't be a bad maybe learning curve, you know, for a couple of years.
Had you always the eye then and only spending a couple of years and then hopefully going back across the water again?
I was going to keep my options open, you know, but I certainly I didn't see a career in the Irish League as you know, as a disaster or anything like that. You know, I kind of thought, you know, maybe a good standard of football and you know, good opportunities there as well. And if something else developed on down the line, then would have looked at it.
You joined in Portadown 2003, I think I'm right in saying. How did the move come about? I was reading just some old articles today, and you know, you had sort of said before you left Glenavon that you intended to leave at the end of that 2002-3 season.
Yeah.
With Glenavon. Was the move to Portadown something that was in the pipeline for a while? Did it just develop over the summer? Was there other clubs interested?
I don't think it was something that was in the pipeline. Like it was always going to happen. The Glenavon team that I played in, that we actually finished runner up in the league under Colleen Malone, were a bit of a surprise package that year. I think it was 2001, and a really good team. Pulled together a really good team. You know, Jared McMahon, Gary Haylock, Ronnie McFall was there, and that was a really enjoyable time. But that team broke up the season after. We lost a few of those boys, and then the following season, which was my last season, I think, we'd lost even more really good players. So it quickly became clear that Glenavon weren't going to compete, and I knew my contract was coming to an end, and I kind of thought, you know what, it's time to maybe look elsewhere.
And so how did the move come about? Did Ronnie give you a call, have a chat with you, invite you down to the club? How does that process happen?
Well, obviously Ronnie and the other managers in the league would be aware of who's coming out of contract. So I think the proper procedure is you send in a letter to Glenavon and say, listen, we want, you know, we're interested in speaking to Mark or whoever the player is. So I think Ronnie and the club did that. Then he phoned me up. I met him over at Seagull Hotel, had a good chat with him, and he just he told me that they'd won the league, I think, the year before, or maybe a couple of years before that, and he kind of said, listen, we've still got a good group of players here, and we still feel that there's trophies to be winning here, and we can win them. So that was an incentive then. You know, I thought it would be a good thing to do that with a club outside the big two.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I think we had won the league 2 years before. That's following season. I think we came second, I think, to Glentoran. So it was a pretty good Portadown side that you were coming into there. Did you know personally many of the players within the team?
I did. I knew Peter McCann because I played underage and schoolboy football with him. I knew Gary, the same, played schoolboy football with him. I've known Keith for quite a long time, right back to the Milk Cup, way back maybe 96, 97. So I knew a few of the lads, and that was also a factor. I mean, before that, a couple other clubs were interested, you know, Linfield and Glentoran, but as I say, the card for me was trying to win something with one of the, you know, so-called smaller clubs. You know, I thought that was a good wee target.
Now, you made your debut here, I think it was against Malmo in the UEFA Cup. I think it's a bit famous amongst here because it was the match Roy Hodgson punched the plastic window through in the dugout there. What was your experience of that, you know, making your debut in that, you know, those sort of big games, you know, a UEFA Cup tie?
Obviously that's what you're playing for, to be, you know, kind of playing against big teams and big games. But at that time of the year, we were also kind of caught sleeping a wee bit in terms of fitness, and I think that was the story with Irish League clubs for a long time. I think that's changing now. I think the culture's changing a wee bit now, and you can see teams they're performing better in Europe, and I think that's because their conditioning's better. But back then we knew it was going to be an uphill task against a full-time team, and so it proved, because the like of Malmo there were quality.
And suppose it was a nice introduction to the team. because then you obviously had the away leg, so if you were away for a couple of days, it was suppose it helped the likes of new players like yourself coming into the team for those couple of days of bonding and stuff as well, getting to know everybody.
Exactly. I mean, it was looked on by Irish League clubs then as kind of, I suppose, a part of your pre-season. We had no great maybe ambitions to go beyond the first or second round, so I think managers and clubs seen it as an opportunity, right, get the boys away and bring them together, and it was good crack. You know, you could tell I could tell a few stories about the away trips, like, but they were definitely brought the group together.
Yeah. Who were the big characters, you know, in that team? So those are the obvious ones. You know, you were walking the team with like the Vinnie Arkins and Mickey Collins and players like that. Was there any, you know, big characters in that team that sort of surprised you when you walked into the change room that, you know, you didn't think that there would be you know, as big a character as there were?
Yeah. There was a few. I mean, Pat McGibbon was actually there for a year or a year and a bit when I first joined, and obviously Pat has been there and done it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he was a good voice to listen to and get advice from. The other characters, obviously, I knew Gary, and I wasn't familiar with Mickey at that
Mm-hmm.
point, like Mickey Collins and boys like that. Big Vinny as well was somebody I always looked on and thought, you know, what a player. You know, it'd be good to see him up close and see what he's about. So all those guys, you know, there was a real good bunch and real strong characters. So as a young player, it's good to be around them.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
What was your impressions of Ronnie walking in? What sort of, you know, what was his management style like, his man management? What was he like in the changing room?
Took me a wee while to figure Ronnie out, you know, because from the outside looking in, you were kind of, I suppose it was a wee bit of a mystery, you know, what is it about this guy? He's been so successful. And then getting to know him, then you realise that there was no, it wasn't rocket science, you know. He was just, he was tough on players, first of all. He demanded high standards, and he was really, really good at identifying good players. I think that was a real strength for Ronnie. He was able to bring in the right player for the right position, and most of his signings were fairly successful. So yeah.
I was just reading back a wee bit over the last couple of days. That first season you came in, I think you made a lot of appearances off the bench in the first season. Was that frustrating for you, or was it? Did you have the mindset that you were coming into a team that, you know, had just come off 2 years ago winning the league, had come off a second place, and you were sort of going to have to put your head down and sort of work to earn your place in the team?
Yeah. No, I didn't think it was a case of me coming in and getting a jersey. I didn't think that would happen. Although I probably thought I would nail down a place a wee bit quicker than I did. It took me time to adjust. And when I look back on that, I think it was because at Glenavon, I wasn't really required to do a lot of defensive work. But Ronnie quickly made it known that, you know, everybody in the team puts a shift in. So that's something that took me a while to get used to. While I was good at going forward, putting in a cross or whatever, getting a shot away, I wasn't brilliant at maybe getting back in and covering the fullback. So that, when I look back now, I can see that Ronnie identified that as a weakness, and that was why it took me a wee while to establish myself.
Mm-hmm. The following season probably arguably was your best season in the Portadown shirt. You know, you were sort of progressed to a regular that season as such. The Irish Cup win and things like that. Was it just something, you know, clicked then after that, you know, was just right then for you to become a regular?
I think there was a couple of reasons for that. The first one was that I kind of got used to the club and got used to Ronnie's methods and what he wanted me to do in the team. So got used to that. And secondly, then I just got an opportunity. I didn't really start that season either, but I got in fairly early, and I was ready. So I was able to take my chance. And I think I can actually remember the turning point. It was away in Newry. I think it was a Tuesday night game around maybe October or November, and I was playing. I got the nod up front. I'm not sure if Vinny was injured or Gary was injured, and I scored a hat-trick. And from then on, I got the confidence I needed, and I kept my place more or less for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I was looking back. I was sort of the second half of the season. I think it was maybe Gary Hamilton picked up an injury, and you came in, and you more or less then
Yeah.
kept that number 9 role for the rest of the season. You scored the winner in the semi-final replay against Glentoran
Yeah.
up at Windsor. Then kept Gary out of the team for the cup final, scored in the cup final and all.
Yeah.
What were your memories of that time? It must have been a great time.
Really enjoyable. It was. I'd say it was probably the best football I was playing or had played in my career to that point, and everything came together. I think Gary had injury problems that year, but also that was the time where him and Ronnie's relationship started to break down a bit. So that was the reason I got my chance, and thankfully I was able to take it. But no, I loved that time, especially from around Christmas time. After that Newry game, I just couldn't wait to play, and I felt like every time I started or got on the pitch, I was going to score. So it's a good feeling as a player.
In regards to the Irish Cup final, apart from the it's the Holy Grail. We're sitting here today. This is the typical Irish Cup final day if there ever was one. What are your memories? When the build up to the cup final, because Portadown were taking on Larne. Portadown were sort of in the boat of favourites. The last few cup finals since then, Portadown, they've lost to Linfield and lost to Glentoran. But it was a Portadown team that was expected to go and put Larne to the sword. What are your memories in the build up to the cup final? Getting the suits, the whole week of the cup final.
Brilliant, really, really enjoyable. It was my first taste. I think I'd played the League Cup final with Glenavon, but it was my first taste of the top cup competition, if you like. But I remember even though I'd scored the winner in the semi-final, I wasn't really 100% sure of my place, because when you've a player like Gary Hamilton, in the squad, you're always kind of thinking, he might go with Gary here. Gary's goal machine. So it was only kind of about the 2 weeks before, when he was doing formations out here, and I kind of thought, he's going to go with me. And then after that, I just tried to enjoy it. Obviously going to get measured for the suits, and then you're bombarded with interviews and phone calls and stuff. But I enjoyed it, because I suppose I'd had a few years where maybe didn't get near finals or medals, so I was determined to enjoy it.
I suppose it was sort of at that time, it justified your thinking in regards to leaving Glenavon. You come to Portadown to win trophies, to play in finals, to compete. At what stage did Ronnie, in the cup final, did you know the night before that you were going to be playing? Was it something that Ronnie springs on the players on the Saturday morning, for instance? At what stage did Ronnie tell you, you got the nod over Gary Hamilton up front?
I had an idea, and I say you kind of know roughly the team that he puts out when he's doing formations and set pieces, and I was in the starting team for that, so that gave me a good indication that I was going to be playing. But still, with Ronnie, he could throw you at the last minute. When he never named the team really to maybe an hour and a half before kick-off or 2 hours before kick-off. So I was still kind of thinking, am I in or not? So we met in the Seagull for pre-match, and just after pre-match, then he named the team. So it was relief, I think.
And what are your memories of the day? Lauren took an early lead through Portadown Old Boy Neil Ogden, but then Vinny scored a couple. I think Don Kelly scored one, John Convery and yourself scored one. Do you have any memories of the game itself?
Yeah, nerves going down because the pressure was on us. They had nothing to lose, and in many ways, if you were playing Glentoran or Linfield, you would have been easier to kind of motivate yourself. So I think as much as Ronnie tried to guard against it, maybe at the back of our minds we were kind of thinking we should win this, And then when they scored the early goal, I remember looking at a few faces, and we were kind of had the same expression. It was like we weren't expecting that, you know what I mean? So after that, then we got into a wee bit of a rhythm, and we started to play. And then once we did that, big open space in Windsor, and we caused them all sorts of problems. So it was enjoyable then.
What about the celebrations that night? Any stories, or what happens after an Irish Cup final win on the evening of it?
Oh no, we celebrated. Don't worry about that. You only have to look around our changing room. But I actually came off injured. I'd scored, and then I had another goal disallowed, and then I got a bad injury actually. Came off just before half time, so I was nursing that, but didn't stop us celebrating. So got on the bus, went back to the rugby club. I had food there, load of drinks, a few speeches, and then the boys actually we called into a couple of bars, I think, before we went to the rugby club, which didn't go down too well. But we ended up then after the rugby club thing, we all went into town, hit a few bars, and it was wild. And we actually ended up back at Kyle Neil's dad's house, and that went on for a while.
I'm sure it did. When you look back at those days and the players that you played with at that time in Portadown, you know, there was that Irish Cup when. Do you reflect and think to yourself, you know, that team should have done more? They should have there was a league title within that team. There was a couple more Irish Cups within that team.
Yeah, and I think so. I think there's no doubt about that. We were knocking on the door a couple of years. I think when I was there, we finished runner-up twice, maybe in the league. The first year we definitely did. And when I look back at the quality of player that we had, I think definitely was with a wee bit of luck, maybe a bigger squad, because I think that was our downfall as well. Ronnie traditionally went with maybe 14 to 16 strong squad. After that, if you got injuries and suspensions, you were struggling. So that went against us a few times, but I look back and think we should have won more, because the quality was outstanding.
Sort of similar, you were talking there about, you know, the Glenavon team breaking up. Over the next year or two, then that Portadown team started to break up. You know, I think Vinny departed, then Kyle and Gary left for Glentoran and stuff like that. How did that feel? Did you think personally that Ronnie had it in him to build another team, or did you think to yourself there's maybe a couple of years of mediocrity coming here?
I thought the latter. I thought, you know, with the amount of quality that we lost at that same time, we were going to struggle a wee bit. You know, the like of Gary. Peter went at that time. Pat McGibbon was gone around that time, and I just thought it was a big chunk, and it was going to be hard to fill those gaps. So yeah, I thought it was going to take another year or two maybe to be able to challenge.
And then, you know, obviously with those players leaving, then you became a more senior figure within the team. How did you take that on? How did that feel?
I enjoyed that. You know, you started to become, I suppose, established. And I enjoyed that. You know, there was maybe a wee bit more pressure with it, but that comes with the territory when you're playing under Ronnie. You know, there's pressure in every game. We were expected to win every game, but no, you embrace it after a while. I mean, at the start, yes, you're a wee bit nervous, but once you establish yourself, I always took great confidence by looking around the changing room and thinking, we've got more than they have. You know, 9 times out of 10, I include Glentoran and I include Linfield, and I thought, looking around us, our starting 11, we can beat anybody. You know.
You were to depart the club then in 2008. Was that something that just happened at the end of that season? Is it something that you've been thinking about for a while? What happened there then?
That final season, I was in and out of the team. I picked up an injury, which didn't help. It was a groin injury. And I couldn't recover. I kept breaking down with it. So I was in and out of the team, and even though when I was in, I thought I was doing well and scoring goals, I still felt like I wasn't getting enough games in when I did get my fitness back. So I kind of towards the end of the season, I felt like I wasn't playing, and Ronnie wasn't using me that much. So towards the very end of the season, we had nothing to play for at that point, and then I had a conversation with Ronnie, and it came to a head then, where I was kind of saying, I need to be playing Ronnie. Ronnie's reaction to that was, well, you know, we don't think you're playing well enough. Things were black and white with Ronnie, you know. You have to give him that. If you were playing well, you were in, and if you weren't, you were out. And there was no in between with Ronnie, you know. There were certain players where maybe he had a wee bit more loyalty to, but that was built up over the years with somebody like Clarkey or Collins, where, you know, they'd been there and done that. So that's what happens with managers, you know.
What way would you have described your relationship with Ronnie over the years?
I would have said it was good. Obviously we had our disagreements, and every player that comes here will fall out with Ronnie, I'm sure, at one stage. But no, I found him fairly straight. He could be ruthless, but at least you knew where you stood with him, you know. And he was type of manager, I suppose, that you respected, but there was also a wee bit of fear there, and I don't think that's a bad thing, you know. And I think sometimes clubs maybe or certain managers are lacking that now. You know, I don't think it's a bad thing to actually be afraid and be on the edge of your seat maybe when he's talking or when he's having a go at somebody, you know. So but no, obviously it wasn't great then when I left, because towards the end of that season, after that discussion, it broke down a wee bit, and they didn't offer me a deal. And at that point, I don't even think I would have signed it. So it was kind of a mutual thing. But never really, no, me and Ronnie never really had a bad feeling lingering after that, like, because I met him a few times, and even now, he chat away to you, and you get on the very best. So,
do you have any famous or funny Ronnie stories from your time at the club? Anything that happened in the change room that you look back at now and have a bit of a laugh about?
There was a few, but when Ronnie went off in one, you know what I mean, it was just kind of, sometimes you were just kind of looking at the floor because you didn't want to laugh, you know, and make the thing worse. But you looked around and you see the old boys were kind of having a bit of a laugh at it too. Like, he had to go up Wesley Boyle one day. Boiler, I don't know if he'd had a poor game. We got beat maybe, and he says something along the lines of, "I know what's wrong with you anyway, Boiler. You're too busy playing that space station in the house instead of PlayStation." So wee things like that, where he just lost the rag, and then he said something stupid, you know.
You went on then, was it Dungannon Swifts you went from Portadown then? And then, how did you find your time there?
Yeah, it seemed like a good move at the time. At that time as well, Cliftonville were interested, which when I look back on, that was just before they actually went on and started challenging and built a real good team. So signed for Dungannon, probably for the wrong reasons, because it was close and I was friendly with the players. Got up there and things just didn't go well kind of from the beginning, because Harry Fay brought me in. He lost his job quite soon, and into that, you know, I think we're only maybe 6 or 8 games into the season, and Harry went. So got off to a bad start, and then that season was a bit of a disaster. I think we really struggled, and it wasn't really enjoyable. Now, good club and good people, and I think the other thing was I had started to lose a bit of hunger for the game at that time as well. You know, so it wasn't all about Dungannon. You know, there was reasons there, like, didn't really work.
Am I right in thinking then once you left Dungannon, you finished off with Dungannon? Did you stay involved in any capacity with youth football or anything like that once you finished up?
Made a clean break. The first season we stayed up. We got into a playoff with Donegal Celtic and stayed up by the skin of our teeth, and that was a brilliant feeling as well. Just sheer relief. I think Dixie Robinson had taken over that team, and Dixie really was big for team spirit and he's a real players manager, so he was good to play for. Dixie then, so we stayed up. Dixie convinced me to stay on. I had another year left, and I thought, right, we'll have a crack at it. We actually had a good season that year, and we finished well up the table. I think we finished certainly in the top half, and played really good football under Dixie, so that was enjoyable. Good memories of that season, real good spirit, as Dixie's teams always do. And then he persuaded me then, we had a chat again, and I signed another contract. But at that point then, quite quickly in that season, I realised that I just didn't really have the hunger, you know.
Right, Mark, the thing that we're going to do here in this Wee Reports feature is for you to give us your best 11 that you played with during your playing career, with a whiteboard here and a pen. So you want to do that and then give us a brief explanation about the players that you've picked?
Dead on. Find this really hard actually. Left out some really good players and good lads. Start off, we're going to go 4-4-2, and I'm going to start with a player that wasn't there for very long, but definitely made an impression on me. So Ronnie brought him in about, I think it was around Christmas time, and obviously maybe his best days were behind him, but what a goalkeeper. I'll never forget some of the reflex saves that he made, even though he didn't look very athletic. The other thing about him was his kicking ability off the ground, because when he was taking goal kicks, it was like a pass. So he could find a player, he could hit a player in the chest from about 70 yards. So top drawer. Going to go Peter McCann, right back. Quality player. Peter actually started out as a right back, playing for the schoolboys, and then obviously pushed on forward in the midfield when he signed for Portadown here. But the beauty of him was he was brilliant going forward, but also really good going back and defending, and he was up and down all day, so he gets in. From Glenavon, one of the players that really stood out for me at the beginning was Gary Smith. I was very young, obviously, and there were some big characters in that dressing room, but Gary Smith just oozed quality, and I think it sums him up when you think that I can barely remember him having to make a sliding tackle because his timing was so good and his anticipation of the play. So top player. I'm going to go. Don't know if Keith Lake's playing in here, but he's going in. Just a real steady player. Played every week, was never injured, and you were getting 7 out of 10 performances every single week. And I think that's why the fans and Ronnie loved him so much here. Also, he could play left back, centre back, or right back. Ronnie played him pretty much everywhere, but just would never let you down. Again, from Glenavon at the very early, in the very early days, I'm going to go for Mark Glendenning. Quality, maybe the best left back in the league for a long time. Certainly when he went on then to Glentoran. A good player to learn your trade under, because he wouldn't give you a break. You know, if you weren't tracking back, he was on you. And I think at that stage in my career I needed that. So real good player and good character. Across the middle then, we're going to go in here. We're going to go Collins on Rodney McCarry. Mickey, just quality on his day, could run the show and did so many times. At his best, probably the best player in the league. As I said before, he was hard to listen to, and he would get on your case right quick if you weren't tracking back or whatever. But you would want him in your team, you know what I mean? Because he was a warrior. Rodney McCarry was similar. I think bit of an underrated player in Irish League terms. Only when you really got to play with him did you see how good he was. And towards the end of his career at Dungannon, I think he showed that. But quality player, I think those two in midfield would be, they wouldn't lose too many battles. Going to go over here, Richard Clark. Again, brilliant player for the length of time he did it as well. You know, Clarkey was playing at a real top level for maybe 15 years here, which takes some doing under a manager like Ronnie. Could play in a number of positions, and could do everything. You know, he could tackle, he could score. So just a good player to have in your squad, top player. Over here, going to go Jared McMahon. When he first came to Glenavon, I think for about 2 years before he got a bad injury, he was the best player in the league by a mile. It was like he was on a different level, and it was a real pleasure to play with him and link up with him. It was just unfortunate that he got the bad injury, because he was never quite the same after that, but absolute quality. And then up front, absolutely no doubt about Vinny. Just so reliable, done it season in, season out. And a real leader as well. I think people don't see that side of Vinny, but when he had to roll his sleeves up and we were behind or we were struggling, he was the first one there, putting in a shift, you know. And another player that I couldn't leave out was from early days at Glenavon, Tony Grant. Portadown fans probably remember him. He was a workaholic. I'd say he was a defender's nightmare, because he never rested. He was always chasing down lost causes and making life hard for defenders. Scored some really important goals, but also a good player to play with as a young lad, because I used to just look at his work rate. Even though he was a good player, he still rolled his sleeves up, and he was and really looked after me as well as a young player. I could have mentioned another few: Gary McCutcheon, Wesley Boyle, Big Dean Fitzgerald, who was Rolls Royce, John Convery, and on and on and on. So it's unfortunate it had to be 11, but I'm happy with that. I think a lot of teams, or most teams, would struggle to live with that.
Cheers, Mark. Thank you. Right, Mark, I just want to just ask you about some of the players that you played here over the years. I'm going to name maybe 7 or 8 players, and I just want you just to give me a brief 3, 4, 5 words or whatever it takes to tell me how you felt about that player or what you thought of that player. Is that okay?
Get on.
Keith O'Hara.
Rock solid, like 7 out of 10 every week. Could play a left back, right back, centre back. Manager's dream. Very, very dependable and real good lad.
Don Kelly.
Smashing player. I think for a season or 2 seasons he was the best defender in the league by a mile. Fantastic attacking in the opposition area, and obviously really aggressive and really dominant at our end defending.
Kyle Neal.
Real good lad. Wee story about Kyle. When I first came in, obviously me and him were kind of competing for the same jersey, and he was out of them all. He was one of the players that came over and really tried to help me settle into the club, which I thought was brilliant considering we were kind of competing. So it shows you the character of Kyle, and a real good lad, good for drinking session.
Mickey Collins.
Top player. Hard to listen to at times, but on his day could run the show, and did here many a time. But as I say, hard work sometimes. He would, you know what I mean. It was Mickey's way or no way.
Guy Hamilton.
Good lad, hell of a player. He was at a different level here for years and years playing the Irish League. He just made it look so easy, and he was lively. He was a lively lad off the pitch. Like he had his moments, and colourful character.
Vinnie Orkins.
Legend. 35 goals a year, whether you're bottom half of the table or top end of the table. One of those players maybe you don't really appreciate until you're up close playing with. But fantastic, good attitude. Top player.
Wesley Boyle.
So gifted. Real good lad as well. Me and him would have been quite close here. Would have shared the same type of sense of humour, at Ronnie's expense sometimes. But brilliant player. Just a pity about the injuries with him, because special. And again on his day, Boiler always came alive against higher opposition, Stanta Cup, European matches, and that says it all about him. He's just technically quality.
Richie Clark.
Brilliant player and a brilliant lad. Clarky was one of the players I watched before I broke into the Irish League and thought, friggin', top player. Really good. Could play in a number of positions, and just a real sound lad.
He's over here taking pre-season training. Davy Muscala.
Quality keeper. Yeah. One of the very best that I've seen in the Irish League. Very solid. Not particularly loud for a keeper or vocal, but he done it with his performances. He was just really some of the saves that he pulled off, reflex saves. Quality player.
And finally, Ronnie McFall.
Ronnie, stubborn, driven, and underneath it all, actually dead on. I think his bark can be worse than his bite, but a lot of time for him and a lot of respect for him.
Cheers, thank you. And then, what are you out nowadays then, Mark? I see you with your Action Mental Health t-shirt on. Are you involved with that charity?
Yeah, I've been working for Action Mental Health now for about 7 years. So we're a charity organisation, a voluntary organisation that specialises in delivering training and opportunities to support people living with a range of mental health conditions. So it's really rewarding, So I would deliver courses on building confidence, stress management, healthy lifestyle type stuff. Some of it's like classroom based, and then other bits of it is like where I'd be organising walking groups and things like that, and just promoting well-being. So it's very rewarding,
Do you keep up to date with Irish League football? Do you keep an eye on results these days, or is it something that you've sort of drifted away from now that you're not involved with the game?
I did drift away from it for a long time, and not just Irish League, but football. I don't know if it's a case of there's nearly like too much football on now, or maybe the game's just been poisoned with money. But I don't have a great appetite for it. now. Now I'll watch a big game like a Champions League or something. In terms of Irish League, I would check out the scores on a Saturday evening, like, but I wouldn't be really, you know, I wouldn't be really mad looking after it, like.
Looking back on looking back on your career, I suppose over everything, I suppose the highlight has to be the Irish Cup final, winning it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, it was a great time for me because I was playing with a real good team, and we played really good football, so it was enjoyable. And the fact that we went on then and won, the biggest cup competition, certainly in the north here, was fantastic. Because up until that point, I hadn't won a big pile, a few runners-up medals and stuff like that. So I would say the highlight for me personally, on the pitch would probably be scoring the winner in the semi-final, and that was almost our final in a way, because Glentoran were kind of the top team at that point. They'd just overtaken Linfield. I think they were going for the double. So we knew if we came through that game that we would fancy ourselves in the final. So no, I have great memories of the Irish Cup run, especially scoring the extra time winner down at Windsor against Glentoran, and then going on to win the final. So definitely a highlight.
Finally, how would you like the Portadown supporters that watched you play for Portadown over those years? How would you like them to remember Marc McCann, the player?
I think I would like to be remembered as somebody who created a bit of a buzz when I got on the ball. And in fairness, I felt that with the fans here. I felt like if I didn't start, I could hear the fans saying, "Bring on, bring on Mark, or bring on McCann," or whatever. But I would like them just to, I suppose, remember that. Hopefully, I scored a few good goals and created some good memories for them, and I suppose got them off the seat and got them excited.
Cheers, Mark. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Johnny.